What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's doing well. So today I'm gonna be attempting to make some custom fiberglass speaker panels on a budget. But if you've been following me for any amount of time now, you know I like to keep things as budget as possible, because I'm just an average Joe. It just so happens to be in car audio. So let's jump into this thing. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. So now that we are basically louder than we have ever been, the bass is starting to overpower the vocals. So what I'm thinking, before I go and putting these things on a separate amp because they're still on the head unit's power, I'm thinking if we can reposition them up higher so they're not being blocked as much by the seats, I think we can gain some of that clarity back. So what I'm thinking is I want to try and relocate these up more. And I was trying to figure out, at first I thought maybe I could build a panel up here and put them up here, but I was like, I don't know if I like that or not. But the more I got to looking, I was like, well shoot, there's plenty of room right here to put a 6.5 and a tweeter and a fiberglass panel. So I think that's the route I'm gonna go. So let me show you the materials that I picked up for this job. We're gonna need some cardboard for our template cutouts. We're gonna need some fleece, got some liquid resin, some fiberglass mat, some spray adhesive, got a good brush, and some wooden dowels. So all this was purchased at Walmart, and after taxes everything come out to $68.51. So since we're going to be making small panels, this should be plenty for what we need it for. Now first things first, we got to get our cardboard cut out to the size of that section right there. So once we do that, then we can get that transferred over to a piece of wood. So after a little bit of trimming, we got our cardboard template made. Now we can take this out and trace it out and transfer it over to wood, get that wood cut out. So now that we've got our wood panel cut out, I had to go back on the back side and notch this little section right here. That way it would clear this bracket right here and set flush on that back panel. And I think it's gonna work. So I'm not gonna bore y'all with cutting the other side out. So I'm gonna get that side knocked out real quick. Then we can get to cutting our rings for the 6.5 and the tweeter and figuring out how we wanna configure them on here. So let's jump to that right now. All right, I got both driver and passenger side pieces cut out, and I completely forgot to record it, but I just wanted to show you guys. So I went back with a router and a rabbit bit, and I put me a groove on the back side of the panel. So this is basically where we're going to staple the fabric to. That way it gives us a nice edge. We can come back and trim the excess fabric off with a utility knife. So if you have a router and a rabbit bit, I would highly recommend that you go this route, but you don't have to, but it's definitely going to make the finish come out to be a lot nicer. So I went ahead and I pulled the 6.5 and the tweeter out. That way I could get me a cardboard template for the inside diameter of the ring that we need to make for the fiberglass panel. So now, got to pull these out, go find a scrap piece of wood, and get some rings cut. And I think I've got the perfect candidate right here. So these are all the scrap pieces from whenever I was building the 4th order box that's in the Mazda right now from the baffle. So these are all the cutouts from the baffle. So I think we can get some rings out of these things. So now we got the inner diameter ring cut out. Just doing a quick test fit, making sure the speakers are gonna fit. They got just a slight play, which is perfect. So now all I did is just went back and just traced the outside of the speakers, the flanges of where they mount. And just now, I'm actually going to cut it slightly bigger, but now I've got a good general idea of where my outer ring cut needs to be. So now let's get these cut out and we can move on to mounting them onto that wood panel we first cut out. All right, so I got both sets of rings cut out, and I went ahead on this one, went ahead and pre-drilled the screw hole locations. So the rings are screwed to the speaker at the moment, and I've got them spaced about a 1/2 inch off of that back panel, so the magnet is not touching that wood. So I'm thinking, just for simplicity, I'm just gonna do everything instead of doing like angle cuts, because you can tilt these to whatever direction you want, but I think I'm just gonna do it, make it level, just to make it easier on myself. But now what I gotta do is get the wood dowels cut out and hot glued on and or brad nailed. I don't know how I'm gonna do it just yet, but I'll come back to you guys whenever we're ready to start stapling some fleece. All right, so now we got all the wooden dowels glued and screwed onto the panels. So I got the screws in the back side there, and the screws that's in the top, those pilot holes where I had the screws, is actually also going to double as the mounting locations for the speakers themselves. So now this has been dry for about a day now. Now we can get to working on adding our fleece and getting it stapled. So unfortunately my compressor fuse is blowed and I don't have any more fuses, so I've got a heavy duty staple gun and some 5/16 T50 staples. It's kind of got like that serrated edge, so maybe hopefully these will do the trick. Now obviously it'd be easier with a nail gun to do the stapling, but gotta work with what we got right now. And also earlier I noticed how I put this groove in the back side to staple the fleece to. Now I had to go back and watch a video because it's been a while since I've done any kind of fiberglass work or anything like that, and unfortunately this groove should have been on this side from the video that I saw, but it's still gonna work. We'll just staple it to the back side. Basically, if you put the groove on this side, you'll be able to trim it off flush, and once the fiberglass cures, then you can come back and fill that gap with Bondo or body filler. So that's why I should have put it on this side, but it is what it is. It's gonna work just fine. But yeah, let's get to adding some fleece on here. So what I've done is I've got the fleece laid out on the front side, and I've took just some regular spray adhesive and I've sprayed all the way around the panel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch and pull the fleece up and around it and pull all the wrinkles out, and then once it's fully stuck, then I'll come back in this groove, and that's where I'll actually add the staples. And then once we got the staples in, then we can come back and trim the excess off. Alright, so I got one done. And as you can see, that's what I was talking about recessing that edge. And like I said, it should have been on the front side, but I think it's going to work for what we're making it for. But I went back around the ring cutouts, and I was being mindful of my screw hole locations, and just went ahead and put some staples all the way around the ring there, so it just makes everything nice and tight around there. But Now we just got to repeat this process one more time, and then we can get to mixing some resin. Okay, so now that I got both pieces finished, it's finally time to start laying some fiberglass resin. So my game plan is I'm going to do the front side first and get that coated really good. Then I'm going to flip it down. That way it's resting on the screws. And then I'm going to come back and coat this edge really good. So let me get to mixing some resin, and I'll come back at you guys when this thing is dry. Alright, so let these things cure overnight. So now they are nice and solid. So what we gotta do now is we gotta come back with some fiberglass mat. Now make sure when you're handling this stuff you got on gloves, because this will get all up in your fingers and stuff. So it's gonna be kind of difficult on these just because it's not a whole lot of room to work with, especially up in this area. But we're just gonna do the best we can. So just get some pieces cut out to kind of jam up in there, and then try and get the resin up in there as best as possible, just to help further reinforce the fiberglass resin. Okay, now that the resin and the fiberglass mat is all cured, I went ahead and I just kind of scuffed up the outside with some 100 grit, because I don't know if I'm gonna paint it yet or if I'm gonna try and salvage some of this fox fur off of my headliner, since I won't be needing this anymore. And I think that would actually look pretty cool, but I don't know how well it's gonna form to this panel. So we'll just have to see. But I went ahead and I got my screw hole locations mapped out, as well as where the speaker wire is going to go up in there. So got that all mapped out. And I went ahead, just for get a visual, I threw the driver's side in. I think that's going to look pretty good. I think it'll look even better once we get some fur on there. Hopefully that fur will form to that panel. So let me get to cutting some pieces and see if we can't make it work. I don't know about this one. I don't know if I quite like it. I like how you can see the curvature better on this one. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna paint it. Oh well, I tried. Alright guys, so got that coat of primer on, and since I'm not quite sure if I want to go back and do Bondo on these panels or just leave them like that textured finish, I'm not going to paint them just yet. So right now it's just still that coat of primer, but I wanted to hear how these things sounded. But unfortunately my tweeter speaker wire that ran to right here from the crossover, I need to add a new wire. And since I was impatient and wanting to get these things playing today, we're just gonna give it a go how it is and see how she sounds. So I got some copyright free music. Hopefully it's copyright free. It says it is on YouTube. Some cyberpunk bass, and this is just the speakers, the bass knobs all the way down. So let's see what she sounds like.
Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their nails done. Girls with their
Alright guys, so my theory on relocating the speakers up higher to bring our clarity back definitely worked. And like I said, that was without the tweeter even wired up, because I've still got to add a longer wire to reach from the crossover up to it. But I really dig how it sounds. But the only thing that I didn't take into account for when I was kind of designing this, so basically now that we have speakers on either side of your ear, depending on where you're sitting, it's almost like, obviously one ear is louder than the other. It's like you're missing, something's kind of missing over here. So I think in order to try and even out the sound as far as everything equalizing and stuff good, let me show you what I've come up with that I think might solve that issue. So remember, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, my plan is to relocate this amp, and I had to redesign this whole section right here. Well, as long as I stay below this line right here, I think I'll be all right. So the more I got to looking at it, I was like, well, I got this beauty panel right here that's just Velcroed on, and there's a piece of 3/4 inch wood behind that's bolted on to that back wall of the cab. So this is only, I think, 6 1/4 inches wide. Well, the more I got to looking at it, I was like, well, we can't do a 6 1/2 right there, but we could do some 6 by 9s. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger. Got me some 6 by 9s. Now, my OCD wouldn't let me just get any brand. So you know we had to go with Memphis, because that's what all the door speakers are right now anyways. So we got 2 of these street reference 6x9s. And these are 4 ohms. So we're gonna be wiring the 6.5s and these up in series. So that'll, both the 6.5 and this is 4 ohms. So that'll put us at an 8 ohm load. And since, like I said, we're still on head unit power, we don't want to be trying to wire them really low. A little mountain diagram. Nice. That's aluminum grill cover. So this has got a built-in horn tweeter as well. Got a pretty beefy magnet. What's this power rate on this? It's 350 peak, which it's not going to be getting enough power anyways because it's on head unit. And it's got the, this is like a RGB. You can wire this in if you want this to light up different colors, I believe. But yeah, I think that'll look pretty trick and balance out the sound very well. So it looks like I'm going to be building another fiberglass panel for these 6x9s here to go in the back, and I'll probably try and mount them at an angle to project the sound upwards versus flat. So yeah, it's always something. But that's really what I like about this hobby, is that you really get to like use your imagination and just kind of create things that you've never seen before. It's probably never even been done before. It's just, the possibilities are kind of endless, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna make y'all watch me build a whole nother fiberglass panel, because y'all just watched me build 2. I will update y'all though in the next video on how that rear 6x9 panel turns out. And I know there's probably 1,000 more videos on YouTube of how to do fiberglass speaker panels, but guess what? I just made it 1,001. And speaking of 1,000, we are 4 subs away from hitting that 1,000 subscriber mark. Guys, I really appreciate you all. We're going to be doing a giveaway once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, and I will update y'all of what that prize is going to be and how you can enter. But that's going to about wrap this video up, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. And until the next one, this is Derek signing out. I'll see you then.